Alternate Ending, where we're discovering good movies, one bad movie at a time. I am your host, Tim Brayton. It is the fourth Tuesday in April 2025, which means, as is our tradition, we're going to be doing a look ahead to the month to come. We're going to be doing our May 2025 movie preview. I have a couple of guests with me tonight who should be no strangers to you if you've been listening to the podcast for a little while. From Los Angeles, we have Caleb Wimble. Hello, Caleb. How are you doing?
I'm good. Thanks for having me back on, Tim.
Absolutely. Always a pleasure to have you. And also at 10:30 in the evening at his local time, we have Brian Fowler. Thank you so much, Brian, for showing up in the dead of night to chat movies with us.
It's the shank of the evening, Tim.
No, that's fair. So we are, as I said, going to talk new movies, upcoming movies. But before we get there, it is, as of this point, we are basically a third of the way through 2025, which is a fact that feels terrifying to me to even contemplate for reasons personal and not movie related and not obviously, there's a whole world going on out there. But I just wanted to, since we are a third of the way through the year, I was curious if either of you had any sort of bead on how is 2025 going movie wise. Have you seen anything super exciting? Does it feel like a good year, like a sort of year?
Well, I'm hoping to change this on one movie, but I have not made it to a theater yet in 2025 because nothing's been compelling enough to make me think I should pay $20 to go see that movie instead of sitting at home with YouTube and Netflix.
That feels like a referendum on the year in and of itself, frankly.
I am hoping to make it out to drop sometime in the next 2 weeks, but
yeah, I haven't seen that yet. The trailers were not selling me, but everyone I know who has seen it had fairly kind things to say. Okay. So I feel like
I'm a big fan of Chris Landon.
Sure.
So.
I'm easy to be a fan of, yeah. How about you, Caleb? Have you had a slightly more robust?
Slightly, but not much. I'm definitely not getting my money's worth out of my AMC A-list membership this year. My 3 eligible movies a week. I think I've seen 5 this year so far, according to Letterboxd, that were new, and everything else was going to see old movies back in theaters. Mickey 17 was the one I was most excited about and the most disappointed by so far, though I did like parts of it, really mixed experience. And then Black Bag, Soderbergh delivering as always a nice little genre excursion for him, like sort of old school talkie spy thriller. That was probably my most positive film experience in theaters of new stuff this year. And yeah, otherwise nothing has gotten me urgently going out either. This past weekend looked incredibly dire. Actually, I looked at like 8 different theaters, I think, trying to find something to see last night. And we decided to watch TV shows at home instead. So
all very fair. I also believe I'm at 5 new releases for the year so far. Not all of which have been theater trips, because one of them was also a Soderbergh film, although not that Soderbergh film. I did catch up with Presence. Ironically, with the plan of doing a same-day double feature of Presence streaming and Black Bag in a theater, and I found Presence to be such a deflating experience that I was like, I will get to Black Bag. I found Presence very disappointing, but still haven't dragged my ass out to see Snow White, which is a movie that I will hate, but I feel that I need to hate it professionally, if that makes sense. And also have still not found the wherewithal to go see the bona fide zeitgeist smash hit A Minecraft movie, because like both of you, I am not a child, and that does very much seem to be a prerequisite.
I am shocked at how much money that is making. Like, I knew it was going to be a hit. I did not think it was going to be, by the end of its first weekend, the second highest grossing domestic movie of the year.
Absolutely.
This is news to me, and it's so disappointing to hear on the call.
It's now far and away. It's far and away first place domestic.
It's exploding. It may very well end up being the year's biggest film, or at least through Avatar.
Niza 2 or whatever.
Oh, yeah. No, I was thinking just in terms of U.S. domestic, but no, for sure.
Yeah, I was going to say, other than that, it's the highest grossing in the world already.
Yeah, no, that is actually something of note about this year. We had the first movie to gross $1 billion in a single territory. The territory was China, which is why the U.S. media is just like not talking about it. But Neja 2, $1 billion in China, which that is a surreal amount of money.
Yeah, massive, incredible hit there.
But no, Minecraft 2 caught me so much by surprise. I was having lunch with a friend the Friday it opened, and a movie person, so we always look at like the early numbers and try to speculate and whatnot. And at lunch, we were talking about Minecraft, and he was like, I'll bet it opens over 100. And I said, no. I've been looking at the numbers, and right now the floor for that movie is to open to at least 110. And he was astonished that I said 110. And it ended up being 157.
Good God.
And this was still the Friday it was opening. So just the explosion that movie had its opening weekend remains astonishing.
I work in a restaurant that is literally almost directly across the street from our local movie theater. That weekend, there were so many families that kept coming in. I'm like, why are there so many kids here at 10 at night? Then I saw the numbers on Minecraft movie and went, oh.
Yeah.
I have to assume most of them didn't watch the trailer because that was maybe one of the most dire things I've been repeatedly subjected to in movie theaters in the last year.
Apparently, the Jack Black line, I am Steve, from the trailer is like... It's hitting the way that, like, you're going to need a bigger boat used to hit for people in Jaws. It sounds honestly kind of fucked how into the movie and, like, the things people are into. Like, there's apparently a zombie that rides a chicken and someone on screen says chicken jockey. And apparently this is the second coming of our Lord and Savior Jesus Christ to the target audience of a Minecraft movie.
Oh, this is like, the enthusiastic nerds pointing the meme. Like I recognize the reference thing.
Something like that, but like at a Beatlemania level of enthusiasm.
Wow.
Is my understanding.
And the conclusion is we are all old.
We are all old. Like, this all sounds just... I don't understand it. So I will be seeing this movie, but I don't think I'll be seeing it in theaters because it sounds like you're going to like a bacchanalia of 10-year-olds if you go see this at a theater. And I just don't have the energy for that. But we did have energy to see some other movies. So we are going to open up this episode with our movie roundtable as we always do. I actually have 2 movies to talk about this week. I missed a regular episode in the month of March because we kind of shuffled things around for our Oscars. So I'm going to be starting things off with a very delayed Patreon request. This comes courtesy of longtime listener and reader Freya, who very kindly did not decide to make a stink about me being a month late on their pick. But that pick is a wild experience, not news to the alternate ending expanded community, not even news to me specifically. I hadn't seen it yet, but it is... Film would be, I guess, the closest word we have to describe this particular 53-minute audiovisual piece. It is a thing called If Footmen Tire You, What Will Horses Do? Have either of you heard of this?
Not till I saw it on your letterbox like a night or two ago.
The name rings the vaguest bell. I have no idea what.
Well, the name is apparently a kind of paraphrase of a line from the Book of Jeremiah. So this is a horror movie for Baptist audiences, made in kind of the regional exploitation film circuit by a director named Ron Ormond, who I had vaguely heard his name. But apparently Ormond was like a trashy exploitation film director who survived a plane crash and was born again. And having found Jesus at whatever age, in his middle age in the late 1960s, decided to use his formidable talents as a filmmaker to make exploitation movies for far-right Christians, which is just one of those phrases that it doesn't compute because it shouldn't compute. And having seen If Footmen Tire You, What Will Horses Do? I can't really explain what that phrase even means. I can tell you that this movie is based on a sermon by the minister Estes W. Perkel, who has an amazing name. But so he was this extremely, extremely conservative Baptist preacher who apparently the main focus of his sermonizing was how America is doomed to being taken over by communists because of how decadent and indulgent the country has gotten. And so there's this sermon that's basically about all the horrible, horrible things that will happen when Fidel Castro's Cuban communist revolutionaries sweep north up the Florida coast, I guess, and take over everything. And so you have this sermon delivered in a wildly lifeless and mechanical fashion, even while he's talking about these horrible experiences, but he's so over rehearsed that it's just this kind of robotic delivery of these things. And so he's talking about like the beheadings and the torture and the raping and the everything that's going to happen when the dread communists come into play. And then it's accompanied when it's not just like the camera pointing at Estes Perkel's face, which is this really unpleasant experience because again, he's not like emoting, he's just kind of reciting. So when it's not that, Ron Ormond has basically filmed this really disturbing horror movie about this content, which is full of like images of dead children, like staged images of dead children. So he has these child actors with like just all sorts of bright red stage blood dropped over their faces, not like made up, like just kind of like sprinkled at them, like they were hit with like a branch of blood or something. And like staging all of these violent things happening to them. And it's a really inexplicable experience because you have this movie made for and essentially by people who don't believe in movies as an art form.
That's a real classic element of this subgenre, right?
Oh, for sure. But like not only do they not attend movies because they think they're lurid, what has been made is the most lurid imaginable content. Because again, it's mostly about like just watching children being shot and stabbed and things like that. Really disorienting experience. Certainly not boring. Despite how sort of monotonous the sermon is. It's only 53 minutes, so that helped a lot. I would not have wanted to watch an hour and a half of this, but it is a one-off experience. I've never seen anything even a little bit like this, and I'm not unfamiliar with movies for religious right audiences, but this one is just some sort of bizarre outsider art version of that I will not soon forget. So thank you for that experience, Freya. It is... you gotta at least watch some clips from it. It's very easy to find online because surprisingly, this doesn't seem to be owned by anybody. But I guarantee it's not like anything you've seen. And that's not just the two of you, that's like any you who is listening to my words right now has never seen anything like this. So if footmen tire you, what will horses do? Bizarre, off-putting nightmare experience, fascinating glimpse into the world of what fiery Baptist preachers who hated communists were thinking in the late 60s. And very, very rattled in a weird way by this cheap, barely competent piece of cinema.
Sounds like a... Oh, go ahead.
I was going to say, sounds like Left Behind meets Red Dawn, but with much more brutal commitment to the subject matter.
Those two things meet like the work of Herschel Gordon Lewis. Both in terms of just disgusting content, but also the overall level of aptitude involved in bringing that content over. I will say there's an incredible scene where to explain how the communists are going to brainwash your children, we see the inside of a communist classroom where the word communism is good, or the words communism is good is written on the chalkboard. So that's part of the brainwashing, but also the main communist, who is this character who's threaded out the movie, played by Cecil Scaife, I'm not sure how to pronounce his name, as this kind of combination of every European accent simultaneously. And he sounds kind of like if Dracula was German, but also from Alabama. He offers the children this sort of choice of, if you pray to Jesus for candy, will he give you candy? And they pray and Jesus doesn't give them candy. And he's like, but if you pray to Fidel Castro, he'll give you candy. And in comes a guy with a giant grocery store bag full of candy, and this communist general just starts flinging candy in the children's faces, telling them to thank Fidel. And it's
okay, that's pretty great.
This is amazing. That's the best scene in the movie for sure.
All right, 1 second. I need to go pray to Fidel Castro for a second, see if I can get some candy.
Absolutely. God bless. Go for it.
But no, seriously, what?
It's, the world is full of some fascinating pieces of regional cinema, and this was almost a little too fascinating for me. But
maybe unsurprisingly, almost no one involved has a link on their name on Wikipedia other than Ron Norman.
You don't say. Most of them were, I think there was only one professional actor in the film, the like 20-something girl who is living in sin with her boyfriend and who finds Jesus at the end. Spoiler alert. So, well, while Brian is going to pray to our Lord and Savior Fidel, Caleb, what are you bringing to the table?
Well, speaking of images of dead children, I was on an 11-hour plane flight a little earlier this week and had time to watch 3 movies successfully back to back. I rewatched Amelie. I watched Le Vordelak, finally. Can concur with Brennan that was a really delightful time. And he pretty much said everything I would about that. And then I watched, to cap it off, Come and See, the 1985 Soviet classic by L.M. Klimov, starring Alexei, they're both Alexei. Okay. Starring Alexei Kravchenko in in the lead, cinematography by Alexei Rodionov, which was what threw me off for a second. A pretty much revered classic is the impression I get. Got a really, really excellent Criterion restoration treatment, which is what I was watching on my own device on the plane. And this was, I'm not sure that I had ever heard any specifics about the movie beyond the brutality of the experience and the really, really famous poster shot of Kravchenko staring right into the camera with this 1,000-yard look and sort of sun forming a halo behind his head. I was absorbed probably by the end of the first or second scene where the boys are going through these muddy fields looking for guns left over from the recent battles during the the Nazi German invasion of Belarusia at the time, now Belarus. I'm fusing the two names together as they're making their way into the Soviet heartland and leaving just utter carnage in their wake. And the story following this boy the entire time throughout the course of, I think, mostly one day, maybe the first night and then bleeding into the next day, but not much more than a 24 to 36 hour period of increasing horrors of war. I was kind of blown away by so many things in this movie. The camera work really surprised me. The really long, focused, unrelenting shots on faces, which maybe I should have had some clue in from the poster, but the amount of mileage this movie gets out of Kravchenko's stares of horror and what we can read on his face as he goes from having just about the worst day in human history to an unimaginably worse day by the end of that. At the same time, completely, it's such an unrelentingly brutal movie, but never really hard to watch in the way of which is not the right thing to say, because we see some absolutely unbelievable scenes of Nazi brutality near the end of the film, but entertainment is not the right word. It's just riveting. Like, you can't look away from what's being shown to you, and it is. Yeah, I'm sure, Tim, you have ample thoughts on this movie that can put into better words than I can. The experience of seeing this thing and just being awash and utterly immersed in this vision of hell on Earth, which I found just completely engrossing and convincing. The relationships that we see develop over it, like with the the commander of the Soviet partisan unit who's conducting guerrilla warfare, the girl or the young woman sort of on the cusp who has a thing for the commander and is sort of mocking the boy initially for his naivete, and then by the end they've realized so little they knew about the world could have prepared them for what they encounter, all leading up to this really astonishing final scene where he is repeatedly shooting the face of Hitler in this photograph on the ground after witnessing, first his entire family murdered and then a nearby village that he repeatedly narrowly escapes from all these atrocities, and ending with this sort of resounding impossibility of turning back the clock as time starts literally going backwards through the bombings and the course of the war, all the way until the point of seeing a baby Adolf Hitler, which I don't think I ever realized that this would you shoot baby Hitler thing was actualized in a classic film to this degree. I'd always just, heard it as this thought experiment and ethical conundrum thing and questioning, the futility of undoing this degree of violence, and also the degree to which it can all be traced, how you can account for this scale of human evil, what you can even say about it, what you can think about it, what you can respond to it with, in the scene just before that, as the Soviet partisans are faced with the choice of what to do with the German soldiers they've captured. And yeah, it was it was something, all right, an emotional roller coaster of a movie, just utterly. You can't look away.
It's an intense film. I saw it many years ago, so my memories are not strong enough to be able to weigh in the way you invited me to do. I will say, I do recall vividly something you touched on. It has this reputation as being, the endurance test war movie about a kid being just subject to every brutality imaginable, but it is good.
Yes.
It is well shot. It is a good story. It has good characters. So it's I think it has this reputation for just miserable slogitude that is real, but also maybe draws attention away from the fact that it is still a very good, I don't want to say conventional narrative, but it is a very satisfying piece of cinema. I've been very tempted by the restored version, just because I did see it so long ago that I saw a pretty banged up print, if I recall correctly. But it's sort of one of those movies that really does earn the reputation of you see it once and then you kind of have to wonder, do I want to see this a second time? And I say that as someone who just bought Schindler's List on home video for the second time. On 4K, so my threshold for that is weird, but at some point I'm likely to see this again. But it is obviously an amazing film. Have you seen this film, Brian?
Now, I know it by reputation, but I haven't seen it. But I did just laugh when you said you bought Schindler's List for the second time, because I bought the 4K disc for that too, and then I got home and I should watch that, and I was like, do I really want to watch it again though? After I bought it without even giving that a thought, I should own this. Why do I not own Schindler's List? And I was like, you know what? Maybe not.
Maybe there are reasons you do not own Schindler's List. A friend of mine, a Jewish friend, her mother, Schindler's List is one of her go-to movies, and I just
watch.
Cool. The world is big. And we're all in it.
Yeah, I can't judge, but that's...
I know that if nothing else, there will come a point in my life when I do an every single Spielberg film in order binge, and I'll need to have Schindler's List at that point.
Fair enough.
But, so we've gone from children dying in Communist Revolution to children dying in World War II. Brian, what dead children do you have for us?
Actually, I have a child who didn't die.
Bah.
Oh, sorry, I broke the theme here. Now, I just caught up with the 2023 documentary Chasing Amy, which, as you'd probably guess from the title if you're not familiar with it, is a look at Kevin Smith's 1997 film Chasing Amy, directed by Sav Rogers, who went viral a few years ago with a TED Talk about watching Chasing Amy basically every day as a teenager, and it was the main reason they didn't kill themselves. That's a little apology. I didn't know other gay movies existed. And it does, for most of it, it's basically the movie you expect it to be. There's interviews with Kevin Smith, with Joey Lauren Adams, with Guinevere Turner, who wrote the movie Go Fish and has made other movies and was partially the inspiration for Chasing Amy. Several people, like the writer of Black Klansman's in there, the director of Outfest, and it's all the conversation that exists around the movie for the, last 25 or so years about, it's a straight white man's look at a lesbian. Having the lesbian character end up with the guy for a good chunk of the movie. The fact that it doesn't appear to be aware that bisexuality exists. But it becomes one of those documentaries, I'm sure you know what I mean, when as it goes on, it becomes less about its topic and more about itself.
Mm-hmm.
Right.
And also it becomes more about the documentarian and Sav Rogers' transition from female to, assigned female at birth to male.
Mm-hmm.
Going through the medical transition while making the movie. And all of that is fine. It's interesting. It's not a lot I didn't already know.
Sure.
But near the end of the movie, there's an interview with Joey Lauren Adams. Like, she does two interviews, one with Kevin Smith and her together, and then one by herself where she gets into how, a lot of the movie was based on the way Kevin had treated her while they were dating, how he couldn't handle her having more experience than him. And how he's talked a lot about how he healed by being a dick to her and became a better person. He's like, that's great, but I still lived with it for 2 years. And then she starts talking about Harvey Weinstein. And she doesn't name any other names, but starts talking about an assistant director who sexually harassed her, having to go to dinners and meetings with men who just wanted to ogle her just to try to get movie roles, about how Harvey didn't want to sleep with her, and so because Harvey didn't think she was hot, Harvey didn't want her in movies, and about what happened to Rose McGowan at the same Sundance Festival that Chasing Amy premiered. And the interview with Joey Lauren Adams is raw and heartbreaking and worth watching, even if the rest of the movie is just fine. And apparently, Sav Rogers was so rocked by that interview, he literally put the documentary on pause for months while dealing with it, because he wasn't expecting it to go that raw and that honest and that heartfelt and terrible. So, I mean, otherwise, it's just a talking head documentary. Everyone has seen documentaries where people talk about something and you get a few clips from that movie and some other movies, but mostly it's, here's an interview with this person, here's an interview with this person, here's a montage of clips from interviews,
Would you say it's like the subject matter is independently interesting for someone who hasn't seen Chasing Amy, or does it really rest on you having engaged with that film?
I think there's definitely more to it if you've seen Chasing Amy, which is, I like Chasing Amy a lot as a movie. I think it's well written. I think it's well acted. It's not well shot, but it's Kevin Smith. But it is, for me, kind of the definition of a problematic fave. And I think it came from a good place in Kevin Smith's heart. I don't think he was intentionally engaging in bi erasure. I don't think he was intentionally minimizing, the lesbian experience. I just don't think he knew better. But yeah, I do think it would help to watch the movie before you watch the documentary.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, my sense, even when the movie was fairly new, because I think I first saw Chasing Amy in college, so it would have been like around 2001, was that we already sort of understood that Kevin Smith was a sincere guy who was also a really, really clumsy guy. And I think that's borne out through a lot of his early films.
Yeah. I was going to say, something that Guinevere Turner talks about in the movie is how they were both working with John Pearson to rep their movies, Go Fish and Clerks, and how Kevin got a career and Go Fish went nowhere, despite actually getting the better reviews coming out of the early screenings and stuff, and how Kevin wrote a movie that was partially based on Guinevere Turner and Scott Mosier's friendship, and also took things that Guinevere had told him about being a lesbian and put it into the movie, but how he got a massive career-defining hit and she got nothing.
Yeah.
So.
Yeah, no, that indie scene in the 90s, there's a lot of that. There's a lot of
it was a much better time to be a straight white man than anything else.
For sure.
Go figure.
No, I was just going to say, I've been curious about this film because Chasing Amy is, as I think you kind of implied is true for you as well. It is my favorite Kevin Smith film, not in a, it's not a competitive race. I mean, I like some of his other stuff, but he's not a great filmmaker. But, I have been curious about it because I do like documentaries that are sort of about the process by which they themselves were made. And that sounds interesting, but at the same time, I'm very leery of, my personality is the extent of the pop culture I've consumed as a mode of personal storytelling right now. And it sounds like this is kind of both a better version and the exact version of the film that I was afraid it would be. So I might check it out. I definitely will see if I can find that interview because that interview sounds incredible. It's definitely
the highlight, best, and hardest to watch part of the movie, which, just speaking of the Chasing Amy, that was actually my first Criterion disc.
I don't remember what mine was probably Rushmore, but I don't remember now. Excellent. Well, thank you both. I'm going to keep the mood way down where it's kind of been because my other film, also a Patreon request, this one courtesy of Patreon supporters CRD, is The Damned by Luchino Visconti. The Damned in English, The Damned in German, The Twilight of the Gods in Italian, and in all three languages subtitled Götterdämmerung, which is the Twilight of the Gods in German, and also the title of a Wagner opera, which is not incidental. So this would be Visconti's 1969 2.5-hour epic film about the rise of the Nazis in Germany. So we're just kind of gliding right on through the worst of humanity on display in this week's roundtable. I will say, I adore this movie. It's not the first time I've seen it. It is really the first time I think I've weighed on it in public. So thank you, CRD, for giving me the opportunity to do so. I love Visconti. I think he's one of the great filmmakers of the 20th century. He's an amazing, amazing character. I don't know if either of you or if anyone listening knows who he is, but he is sort of in order of how much these inform his filmmaking. He is a communist, member of the nobility, and he's gay in Italy. And all three of those things, being communist, being a member of the upper classes, and being gay, are percolating through all of his movies, sometimes more, sometimes less. I think The Damned is maybe the film where all three of those things are kind of the most swirling right at the top, because it's a film about how wealthy German industrialists, speaking of Schindler's List, this family, the von Essenbachs, a steel-making family in Germany, basically decided to bet their chips on the rise of this Hitler fellow who seemed to be kind of in the political ascendant, and so doing guarantee their family's success, and sort of assuming they would be able to control that in a way. They're not necessarily saying we're going to use the Nazis as our pawns, but they're very much, we are the wealthy bourgeois of Germany. Surely whatever is going on here in politics won't affect us. We'll just be able to sort of ride its wave. And of course, that's not what happens. So the film is sort of the story of how this family of just dreadful human beings try to play with a snake, and it bites them. And it bites every one of them in turn, and we just watch people die. And that's, again, the title of this film is Götterdämmerung, the Twilight of the Gods. The gods being, in this case, the industrial classes that sort of let Nazism rise because they were like, we can make something out of this. And then you end up with the Nazi government. And that's just not good for anybody. So that's part of it. It's this story about how Nazism was aided and abetted by the capitalist classes that it ended up destroying, but also sort of the closest to a main character, the top billed character is Dirk Bogarde, who plays the new head of the steel company, who is the lover of the young woman whose father-in-law was the old owner of the steel company. Her husband has long since died. And it's sort of, the story is kind of their political machinations to get him in charge of the company. But sort of the real main character is her son, who is played by Helmut Berger, who was Visconti's lover at the time of the shoot, which I mentioned this on Letterboxd, feels like I just don't even want to know what's going on in their personal lives because Martin, the Helmut Berger character, is basically someone who is the sum total of every possible sexual deviation. He is gay. He is a pedophile. He is like blackmailed by the other Nazis because he's just can't keep his hands off like 10-year-old girls throughout the course of the movie. So it's this movie that's all about like this character's kind of unfettered, selfish hunger just to consume and destroy, often in sexual terms, often just in terms of being a very enthusiastic Nazi. Like he's kind of the member of the family who's like, no, we're doing this because it's the right thing to do. And then at the end of the movie, it kind of turns it's again, the snake bites him, because the Nazis did not let you be gay. Spoiler alert. And so that's kind of the thrust of his arc, is from this like disgusting libertine to someone who's basically completely closed off and has to kill every piece of his own libido and everything he's ever loved. And again, played by the director's lover, which who the fuck knows what's going on in that bedroom. But, so you have this like really big operatic story of capital and the Nazis and people betraying other people and people trying to like work corporate politics to win out, with just great performances throughout, but also just a really beautiful, handsome production that's kind of evoking this grotesque but rich and full of life version of Germany right before it just plunges into hell, which is sort of what Visconti does. His maybe best known film, his best film, I would say, is The Leopard, which is often called the Italian Gone with the Wind, because it's just this like huge epic full of mansions and people dressed fancy. Because again, he is a member of the upper class. He lives in this world. He is, in a sense, this German industrial family. Like, that's his background. And so he's really evoking this kind of heady world that leads them all to think that this is something that is an appropriate way to live and that they can control. It's incredibly well shot, some just really bold use of color. Again, it's an Italian film from the 60s. Duh, it has very bold use of color. There's this opening, not the opening scene, but the first time we see Martin, he's dressed in Marlene Dietrich drag when Marlene Dietrich is herself kind of dressed in male drag. So he's like playing a drag king as a drag queen. And it's doused in this like very lurid, bright colored lighting. Just really potent movie about sort of how selfish people get what they deserve, and unfortunately for all of us, take the rest of the world down with them in a way, if they're sufficiently rich and powerful, selfish people, which feels like a story that does not have any lessons for today. And that's why I don't think any of you should go out and see this movie.
Thankfully, the world learned its lesson.
Yes.
Yeah, not at all timely.
It's never happened again.
Exactly. But no, I love this movie. Again, as I said, I've seen it before. My second favorite Visconti, I would say. So really happy that I saw it. And in fact, it has inspired me. It is the first in what I have always considered, everyone calls it the German trilogy. I like to think of it as specifically the insane gay German trilogy, because it's this followed by Death in Venice, followed by Ludwig, his 4-hour biopic of Mad King Ludwig. I'm going to watch the whole trilogy, I think, in the next couple of weeks, because now I'm inspired. I remembered how much I like Visconti. So thank you doubly, CRD, for supporting the show and for giving me a little Visconti kick in the ass that I'm looking forward to practicing for the next little while.
I will definitely be checking this out. I have not seen a Visconti. I don't think.
Oh, this would be a good one to start with. Honestly, it's
this does
weird.
Sound interesting.
Like his Italian films are. I mean, it is an Italian film. It's in. Depending on, you can watch it in Italian, you can watch it in German and English. His Italian films are a little bit more one thing, and this is like a weird grotesque, but I think it's really watchable. I think this would actually be a really good one to start with, and it's on Criterion. I assume it's streaming on the Criterion channel. I watched the Criterion Blu-ray, but
is it one of those Italian 60s ones where every actor was speaking a different language, and so there is no like undubbed version?
I think
that you
they
could
were
watch?
actually mostly speaking German. Helmut Berger is speaking heavily accented German. Dirk Bogarde is English. I'm sorry, they're speaking English. So Helmut Berger speaking English. Dirk Bogarde is obviously speaking English. And Ingrid Tulin, who plays the mother, is speaking pretty good English. And then the rest of the cast I'm not sure about. But I think...
Oh, Charlotte Rampling's
in it. That's right. She is the wife of the only member of the family who isn't awful. basically. And he is, for his troubles,
okay.
the first one killed.
So it sounds like English is the closest to the definitive language to see it in.
I think the definitive language is to see it in English. And in either version, there is a sequence in German, which is the Night of Long Knives, which in this case is an amazing sequence cast expressly as the German sort of closing down on homosexuality, because like all the people killed that we see on screen were just having a gay orgy right before the Night of Long Knives starts. And that's kind of the story is sort of about how being a self-serving gay man trying to make it with the Nazis was going to not work out for you, and doesn't. So
just a quick thing here. It does not appear that it's on the Criterion channel. Something on a premium subscription on various things, but I didn't investigate further.
Okay. Well, it's definitely, it's in the collection, so it may drift in and on and off the channel. I'm not sure, but it's very much worth seeing for sure.
Bizarrely, it looks like it's on Hulu, according to Just Watch.
Yeah, premium subscription is what I saw, though.
I think the Disney audience would eat this one up. All right, so that is our quartet of the most upbeat, fizzy. I mean, I guess the one about chasing Amy is probably like 90% fun.
We got Nazis, communists, and Harvey Weinstein.
Yep. Great times. Great times. So thank you both for bringing your movies to the table. We are going to take a quick pause here just to thank our Patreons, including, as I just said, Freya and CRD, who brought those two movies, one of which is a masterpiece and one of which is enough of an anti-masterpiece that I think it counts. So thank you both. And also thank you to our new subscribers, including Brian Lee, who just joined at the Crew Head a few days ago. I actually had a chance to chat with Brian. He signed up specifically to play our spring movie trivia hosted by our own Brennan Klein. If you missed that, every few months we're going to do a trivia game for Patreons at the Crew Head level and above. First night we did this for the year was perhaps ill-advisedly Easter weekend, but we did have a nice little turnout. Fun time. So thank you, Brian, for joining for that. If you want to join and play trivia, keep an eye out for that. We'll have one again in a couple months. And I also want to give a shout out to an in real life friend, Zev Valancy, who did sign up last time and got a shout out last time, but I wanted to give him a personal shout out just because I know him and I wanted to say hi. So with that, we are now going to get into the meat of our show for the night, which is the May preview. It's the first time I've been on one of these preview episodes in a little while, and I kind of made sure it happened that way because this is the first time in 2025 that there's movies I'm looking forward to in the month coming up. But
I can guess one of them.
I guarantee you can.
I guess two of them without even thinking about it.
You can probably guess both of the ones I have in mind with very little effort. But we'll get there.
I forgot what the end of the month had coming for a second.
But yeah, we will for sure get there. But let's go ahead and start at the beginning of the month with the. I don't think it's the return to Marvel parking its butt on the first weekend of May, but it feels like we haven't had 100% of those happening in recent times because Marvel's been kind of licking its wounds a little bit.
Slowed
down. We do have on May 2nd the wide release in North America of Thunderbolts Asterisk, which is apparently the title for some reason, and I'm sure that will be explained.
And I have theories on that, but somebody put me on a clock because I could talk about this movie that I think is going to be bad for a long time.
Go for it.
Okay, my first thing is I have a theory what the asterisk is, but I don't want to spoil if I'm right.
Okay.
But my thing that I'm looking at, the trailers, is you remember the David Ayer Suicide Squad from almost a decade ago?
One tries not to, but yes.
One of the biggest problems I have with that movie is they put a threat in the movie that was ridiculously too powerful for the team they had going after the threat. And now this is a team that's mostly human. Like, I guess Ghost has superpowers. Whatever they're calling not Captain America. I don't know if they're using the US agent name or not, but has, like, super strength. But they're putting them up against a character in the Marvel Comics who literally can beat up the Hulk with one punch.
Okay.
And it's like, there is no plausible way to tell this story where the Thunderbolts win.
Maybe that's the asterisk. Maybe they die in the first 5 minutes.
So I don't understand what we're doing here.
Yeah.
But the other thing is it does not look like Thunderbolts at all. There's been a few different versions of Thunderbolts over the years in comics, but the original comic from, I want to say around 2000, 2001, somewhere in that range, is a really good comic book with a spectacular twist ending in the first issue that you can't do in this movie, which, at the risk of spoiling a 25-year-old comic book, the last page of the first issue revealed that this brand new team of superheroes that nobody had ever seen before were actually the masters of evil in disguise, which clearly we're not doing here because we know these characters already, at least if you've been watching the Marvel movies and TV shows, and if you've been keeping up with all of them, you're even more of a comic nerd than I am at this point.
I am glad to hear they're based on a post-2000s comic, because I don't think I'd ever heard of the Thunderbolts prior to this.
No, they're right early 21st century, the original story. It's a worth reading if you read comic book story, the original run.
Yeah, I'd like to jump in and say, I think my feelings about Marvel's universe are pretty well understood at this point, but when I read superhero comics, I tend to read DC. But
me too, actually.
Thunderbolts is one of the specific Marvel titles, that first Thunderbolts miniseries from 2000 or 2001, that I actually have really positive feelings about.
Oh, and you have read it.
I have read it. And so this is the first time since the MCU started that I'm in a position to be like, that's not right. That's not my Thunderbolts. What the fuck are these Thunderbolts? And I'm kind of excited to have that experience, but at the same time, it's this is gonna suck, because it's do you remember the dumb David Harbour character from Black Widow? Well, he's an M movie now. It's great.
And so's Florence Pugh's character.
Right.
And we have Ghost back from
Ant-Man 2.
Yeah. And we have the U.S. agent who was only on one of the Marvel TV shows.
Famously, everyone's favorite of the TV shows, too.
Right.
Was it the one that basically broke alternate endings?
It
Let's Watch TV show?
Yes.
We were going to do a TV podcast, and then Rob disliked it so much that he's like, what if we don't do that TV podcast we were talking about?
The Falcon and the Winter Soldier, yes.
I feel like this is a project that Marvel does not need right now, because Marvel's taken some pretty nasty body blows, and they need a big, everyone's going to love this, and maybe Fantastic Four is going to do that for them later this summer, but Thunderbolts... What?
I was just going to say, Fantastic Four, we have a lot of evidence now that unless we change it to The Incredibles, the Fantastic Four does not work as a cinematic property.
Very fair.
It's 0 for 4.
It's 0 for 4. That is a ugly number, but I just feel Thunderbolts is who likes these characters? Who wants to see them as the focal point of a movie?
At least when they did Guardians of the Galaxy, which was last time they did a more obscure title, they hadn't introduced any of the characters before, so we didn't already not care about them.
Right, there's that, and then there's also, Guardians of the Galaxy in 2014 sells itself, because it's you know how long it's been since a Star Wars? Here's a Star Wars with a raccoon.
It was basically yeah, this is Star Wars if it was written by Joss Whedon on one of his best days.
Right. Perfect. And
Sean Gunn is or James Gunn, rather, is the only person Marvel's hired who does a good Joss Whedon impersonation.
100%. When I was assembling the list for our episode, and I was looking at so this is directed by Jake Schreier, written by Eric Pearson and Joanna Calo. And I don't know these names.
Jake Schreier, who has only done Robot and Frank, which I am fond of, but not at all what you would expect to be pulled from here. Although he did do Beef on Netflix the other year, which is pretty good.
Sure.
It feels like they're just killing time until the Avengers movie next year.
I know, and I don't know. I will be very curious to see how this one does at the box office. It feels like who could want this movie? And I think we're going to see exactly how big the Marvel diehard audience is, because that will be who sees this movie, I feel.
Will it do better than the Marvels? That seems to be the question.
That's a big question.
I thought the Marvels wasn't bad.
It was overhated, I thought.
Yeah, exactly. It wasn't good, but it wasn't bad.
Yeah.
Okay. So anybody else got anything to say about Thunderbolts?
I said it. I don't know. Do you have any? Is this going to be? Are you going to be there opening night, Caleb?
I watched all the trailers for these in a row except for Thunderbolts because I've already seen the trailer in theaters and couldn't subject myself to it again. So no, I think I've missed I've slept out of the last 3 Marvel movies now. I'm just done until somebody tells me I should come back in, basically.
Fair.
Yeah, there's a couple of the movies I've skipped, and there's a lot of the TV I've skipped.
The TV was what did me in. Yeah.
Yeah, I've got to catch up on Daredevil at least, because now I think the last episode of the season drops next week or something.
Yeah.
And I'll probably watch that, but, like, I have no desire to watch She-Hulk. And I like She-Hulk comics, but no, I just don't want to watch that.
Yeah, I made a pledge to myself that even if I try to keep caught up with the movies, the TV is just not going to happen. So I'm fine with that at this point in my development as a person. We do have a couple limited releases that I wanted to call attention to. Not that I think either one of them is necessarily going to be great, but they're both kind of big-ish distributors with big-ish stars. We have a boxing movie starring Shia LaBeouf and Toby Kebbell, or Cabell, I'm not actually sure how to pronounce his name, but boxing movies are one of those things that, I don't know, sometimes work. It's called Salvable, which is just a historically bad title.
Yeah, I was wondering about that.
I literally was checking to see if you'd made a typo when you sent the list over. Like, is it savable?
When I reopened the list, I was like, what did I type? I looked it up. It's like, I typed the title as it is reported on the IMDb. So I'm hearing no's.
If it gets good buzz, it looks like, it looks like a dad-ass movie and maybe something that could be worthwhile. Before
I watched the trailer, I was worried. I was like, oh my God, is Shia LaBeouf old enough to be a washed-up boxer already? No, that's Tony Cabell, or Cabell. It's like, okay, I'm not quite that old yet. Otherwise, I watched the trailer for this and I went, maybe if it pops up on Netflix in 6 months. Other than that.
Yeah, and then the other limited release is a film in which Nicolas Cage stars as a character named The Surfer, and the title of the film is The Surfer.
It sure is. This one I will probably be in seats opening weekend for, but both because of how empty this year has been and because I mean, I've been on the Nicolas Cage wave for so long now and been so rarely disappointed by him, even if the thing around him is pretty disappointing. And this one looks like it could be weird and interesting in ways that make it worthwhile. But
it's some manner of thriller. It has in the trailer, it has kind of very like leaning heavily on moments of like sun dappled atmosphere that are kind of dreadful that I think is interesting.
It looks like it might be interesting. Like the first 20 seconds of the trailer, I thought it was going to be another John Wick knockoff. And then
it looks like it's setting up for that.
But then it kind of twists into being something closer to horror. Not out and out horror, but closer.
Yeah.
So I'm intrigued. It's Nick Cage. I'm sure he's going to do something interesting because he's incapable of not.
And the director, Lorcan Finnegan, he's done pretty much all sci-fi horror from what I've seen, or like weird surrealist horror of a kind that like none of them, like Vivarium doesn't quite work for me, but it almost does. And they're like the concept is intriguing. That was the one a few years back, 2019, with Imogen Poots and Jesse Eisenberg as like a couple caught in this weird cuckoo's nest, bizarre horror suburbia. And it does get that uncanny, not quite our worldly sense going on well, which I was getting a little bit of that from this trailer. So that's enough to make me go see it.
I'm curious about it. And I will say, and I think it ties into that uncanny sense you were just talking about. I like the look of it. Like just based on the trailer, it has a kind of like overly graded, but in a way that feels not accidental, but like they want it to look a little bit unpleasantly shiny and yellow. So I don't know. I'm
jaundiced.
Yeah. Any other thoughts about the films of May 2nd, or shall we hop over to what may or may not be the films of May 9th? I frankly have my doubts.
Let's do it.
Let's move on.
There are 2 films currently scheduled for wide release, and just I don't know if either one of them is going to come out because they both are like sort of big enough distributors to handle a wide release, but also not likely always. So those films, well, the one of them that I think feels maybe a little bit likelier to come out just because it's horror counter programming, is a film called Clown in a Cornfield, which is about a clown in a cornfield.
It kills people.
It's about a killer clown who kills people.
I've seen many killer clown movies. There's has to be at least a couple that are good.
That is the response to have.
There has to be at least a couple that were good at some point. I mean, I like It Chapter 1, but this is not It Chapter 1. This looks more like generic slasher, which...
And they called it generic slasher.
You guys know me. Slashers are catnip to me.
I mean, I don't know if they're exactly catnip to me, but they're close enough that I want to support the ones that actually do get theatrical release. So I'll probably say this.
I don't have high expectations for this doing anything interesting or new. But if it does the old tropes well, I'll be happy.
Yeah, exactly. And then the other film, and I'll be honest, I don't think this is going to come out. I just straight up don't think it's going to come out, but it's on the schedule, so let's quickly talk about it. It is a film called Juliet and Romeo, which is, as far as I can tell, the true story behind Romeo and Juliet. Also, it's a musical.
Yeah.
Thoughts?
It is a musical.
This movie looks terrible, but I was so happy that they put the music in the trailer and did not hide the fact that it was a musical. That was like a startling change of pace. I assume because of Wicked
this is
last
true.
year.
So right now on Broadway, there's a play called And Juliet, a musical called And Juliet, that opened in Manchester in 2019, moved to the West End later that year, came to Broadway in 2022. It's a jukebox musical with late 90s and early 2000s pop hits. 3 out of the first 4 songs are Backstreet Boys, according to Wikipedia. That
sounds like a jukebox musical.
And it is, as I understand, I haven't seen it, I haven't listened to it, but it is a story where Juliet wakes up, finds Romeo dead, and doesn't kill herself. And then it continues with her life. Last year, just closed on Broadway, Rachel Zegler played Juliet in a stage adaptation musical of the Baz Luhrmann Romeo plus Juliet movie, which I can find nothing about. I cannot find the soundtrack. I cannot find a list of the songs. I can find the official website for the play, and that's it. And it's like, it closed on whatever day.
It must have been a dog if they couldn't even get an original cast recording off of it.
Yeah, and I'm just sitting here, what is in the air that we are making Romeo and Juliet musicals? Like, I know Romeo and Juliet's definitely one of the 5 most popular Shakespeare plays.
Yeah, it's
probably in the top 2 with Hamlet.
But it's been getting musicals and operas for hundreds of years at this point on a regular basis.
Oh, definitely. I just find it strange that we've gotten now. This is the 3rd, apparently wholly distinct musical.
I wonder if we're seeing like a cycle that failed to appear. If people were hoping to cash in on the Spielberg West Side Story and like, that movie's going to make $200 million and they have all these knockouts ready to go. And then that movie tanked and then it's like, oh shit, we have these, what are we going to do with this?
Yeah, that was a really quick rush to capitalize on Wicked.
That's what I was thinking. Yeah.
$700 million.
I mean, this has the look of a direct to Netflix movie, something about the color grading.
Yeah. There's nothing that makes me think this movie is a wide release.
No, I think that is...
Except for the fact that it's on the schedule as a wide
I think that's an artifact of sometimes things get announced for release and then it's only like 5 days before they come out that the sites are actually like, actually, this is going straight to Hulu or whatever. So yeah, I'm again, if I had money to bet, I'd bet that this does not actually come out, but we talked about it. Now you know it exists. You can go out and watch the trailer for Juliet and Romeo on your own and join us in wondering if it will ever see the light of day.
Derek Jacobi's triumphant return to Shakespearean cinema.
Oh, dear God, I missed that. That is
he's
sad.
the friar.
Okay. Well, you know.
Oh, hey, well,
Derek
good
Jacobi
for him.
Gotta eat.
He's got to eat.
Yep.
Too.
Hey.
Exactly.
We do have a couple limited releases. There were 4 that I put on our list here. The ones that I just want to quickly call attention to, and if you guys want to go into more detail, we sure can. Caught by the Tides, which is the new film by Zhao Zhenke, and that gets me in the door. I don't need to know anything else about it. I didn't watch a trailer. I haven't seen any footage. I'm just like, okay, new Zhao Zhenke, I'm in. And then the other film, which I did watch the trailer, not for this episode. I saw it in theaters, and the whole time I was watching the trailers, I was like, what godforsaken shit is this? And then apparently it's getting some level of buzz, but a film called Friendship. Curious if either of you watch this, have thoughts about it, because I know a lot of people who saw this and loved it, and I'm like, why? So maybe it's me. Maybe I'm the one
who
who's
saw
wrong.
the trailer or the movie itself?
No, the movie itself.
Oh, sorry.
It played at the Wisconsin Film Festival, so a lot of people I know saw it there, and all had very positive responses to it.
Yeah, I mean, hadn't heard of it
Is
prior to the trailer, but it looks like one of those things that I'm like, this could be really good, really funny, really interesting, or it could be terrible. Good buzz is good.
I mean, Paul Rudd's generally reliable. Not always in good things,
Right.
but he's generally a reliable presence. As Kate Mara. I don't know, it might be good.
I was very taken with I watched 2 different Caught by the Tides trailer, and I have not seen a Cha Jung-K movie, and I'm now going to watch several of them in anticipation of this because the trailers were that good and that interesting for Caught by the Tides that I now need to patch that hole.
Unbelievably major director during his heyday, which when would I say that was? A while ago. Like he's been making films for a while, but I think his like big period is probably like 97 through 2004. I would definitely say those early ones are the shit. And everything I haven't seen a single one of his films, and I'm like, that was bad. But the early ones,
if you had to pick a favorite or a first time point of entry for his,
I would say Platform is kind of the one people start with. Still Life is another one that I think would be a pretty good first shot. Still Life is from 2006.
This is one of those things where I live in a town of like 20,000 people. That's multiple hours from any real city. So Caught by the Tides will not be playing near me.
Yeah, I don't anticipate seeing it in the theater, but I will be catching up with it whenever it hits the net.
It's like I can count on my hands the number of foreign films that play, especially ones that aren't like Studio Ghibli, other anime hits, or Godzilla.
Sure.
You take those out, I can probably literally count on my hands the number that I've played in the last decade here.
No, that's real.
I did manage to see Parasite in the film theater. So
Parasite
that was
got a really wide release, so that doesn't surprise me.
It only played here. I saw it actually on the night it won Best Picture. When a film festival ran by Central Michigan University happened.
Okay.
It's the only time I had a chance to see Parasite.
All right, so you are definitely in a dead zone for foreign films then, because Parasite, if you didn't get Parasite, you ain't getting the new Cha Jung-K.
Exactly.
Sure. Okay.
So Fight or Flight, the new action thriller on a plane with Josh Hartnett, I had a moment at the beginning of the trailer where of a tense. Did I not see this movie? Wasn't and then no, it was on a train. It was starring Brad Pitt. This was. I think this trailer made me realize I might have reached peak saturation with the post John Wick excessive action movie from like slightly over the hill middle aged guy on some public mode of transit just beating up huge numbers of people. I don't know. I used to really love these kinds of movies and seeing them get made with regularity, but this trailer I was already forgetting before I finished watching it. Did it excite either of you?
No. But it did prompt a question in my head. Didn't we just have a movie about action on a plane with flight in the title this year already?
Maybe that's why I was feeling such.
Did we? Yes, we had that. Flight Plan, the Mel Gibson,
which is apparently the worst thing Mel Gibson has ever directed.
I have a friend who also sort of like secretly wants Mel Gibson to succeed, and he was like, "Don't see it; it's awful." It's like, okay.
Oh, Flight
that's
Risk.
Exactly the action I got to. Flight Risk.
Yeah, that's it. Flight Plan was Jodie Foster's daughter has been kidnapped off a plane.
Oh, yeah, that movie. That was actually
I haven't seen
movie.
it. It's actually the newest Jodie Foster film I haven't seen. I looked that up recently because I saw Nell for the first time a few weeks back.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
I always confuse it with Red Eye, is that Wes Craven? Yeah.
That came out at like peak, let's figure out what to do with Cillian Murphy before Chris Nolan like just turned him into Oppenheimer, but I liked Red Eye quite a bit, so who can say?
Then we have an even more memorable film name.
Oh yeah,
Shadow Force.
Shadow Force, that's the one. Yeah. That's right.
I watched the trailer last night. I couldn't tell you what happened in it. This was something else.
People running away from a bounty hunter or something.
I would like for Joe Carnahan to make a good movie again, because I thought The Grey was awesome.
Yeah.
So I want his movies to do well because I want him to keep getting financed, but this is not a film I will be seeing. I don't think.
I just caught the tail end of The Grey on TV, I don't know, a month ago. It's like, oh yeah, this was a good movie.
It's a good picture.
I'd almost completely forgotten it. Like, wait, I did see this,
So yeah, should we move on to May 16th?
Sure.
Where there's maybe foreshadowing a film that will be better than any of those. I am really embarrassed how excited I am for Final Destination 6. Final Destination Bloodlines.
5 was really good. 5 was really good.
It was.
I think it might actually be the best movie in the franchise.
Wow. I'll be rewatching all 5. My ranking is very fluid. Other than that, I know that 4 is my least favorite.
Definitely.
It's such a reliable franchise.
I am a little annoyed that it looks like in this one, the group is all deeply connected by bloodlines, as opposed to, they all happen to be in the wrong place.
Sure.
This is the first Final Destination trailer since 2 that made me think, maybe I want to watch a Final Destination movie again. Maybe I should watch the last one, hearing that 5 is apparently a good point of reentry.
5 is good.
5 is really quite good.
Yeah.
4 is by far the worst. Although Tim has told me in the past that it's better in 3D.
It's better in 3D, but it's still the worst. Like, 4 has a reason to watch it if you can see it in 3D, and it has no reasons to watch it if you can't. It's sort of where I live with 4.
I will skip from 2 to 5 in that case.
3 is good. 3 is good.
Okay. Well, I'll watch 3.
2 and 3 are both good.
I've seen 1 and 2.
Yeah.
It's a very reliable series.
Don't like.
Same.
It's essentially a slasher film without a slasher.
Yeah, it's a slasher film where the gimmick...
Or where God is the slasher.
Where God is the slasher. Like, instead of having a machete or a pitchfork or whatever gimmicky weapon, the gimmicky weapon is Rube Goldberg devices. And, like, how is that not the best pitch for a horror movie?
Yeah, it's great. I love this franchise. I'm glad it's coming back. And I'm surprised it's getting a theatrical release because they had announced originally that it was going to be a Max.
Mm-hmm.
I'm hoping they also bumped up the budget when they decided to make it theatrical and it's not going to look like a straight-to-streaming movie.
Fingers crossed.
I hope it does, if only because this is the final movie with Tony Todd, right? There's not going to be anything after this.
It is his last credit, for sure. Which I will say, if you like Tony Todd enough to have just said what you said, Caleb, you need to see all of the Final Destination movies.
That's a good point, yeah.
He has one scene in all of them, and it is a good scene in all of them.
Except for 3, I think he's only got his voice in it.
You might be right.
He's the voice of the roller coaster Satan thing.
Right.
But I don't think he actually physically appears in 3. I have watched these movies too many times.
There is no such thing.
Maybe I'll try to hunt down a 3D Blu-ray of 4 and pop it in my PlayStation VR. It's about the only way I can watch any of those.
I own the 3D Blu-ray of both 4 and 5, but I currently have no mechanism to watch 3D movies, which is a bummer for me. So that's definitely sounds like a thumbs up all around. What about the other wide release of May 16th, Hurry Up Tomorrow?
So I was really intrigued by this trailer. And then, looked up, realizing that it was the director of, what is it? It Comes at Night? Was that the prior one?
Yes, It Comes at Night, Krisha, and Waves.
Right, Waves. And It Comes at Night was a movie that I wanted to love, and then it didn't really pay off what it was going for, but I was still into it for what it was trying to do and for the vibes in general. Mm-hmm. And Waves, I thought, was really promising on the basis of a trailer. And then I heard such catastrophic things from you and others that I still haven't even seen it yet. So I'm curious about this one. I will potentially check it out.
I will say that people liked Waves more than I did, so don't necessarily assume that Waves is as bad as I think Waves is. But I think Waves is bad enough that I'm just going to flat out skip this unless it starts getting like awards buzz, because I hated Waves.
I do find the cast here pretty intriguing.
It's a very interesting cast.
I have no idea about The Weeknd as an actor. I don't know. Has he been in a movie before?
I think so.
But I like Jenna Ortega.
Uncut Gems. He was in Uncut Gems as the Weeknd.
Oh, was he?
Yeah.
Oh, okay. But yeah, it's like, I like Jenna Ortega. It's got Barry Keoghan. It's an interesting cast. So, I don't know.
Yeah.
I'm going to wait and see on what kind of reaction it gets.
Sure.
Before I make any real decision.
It's one I might see because I have an AMC A-list membership and just go.
Yeah, I need to I have let it's actually Celebration Cinema VIP, but same thing, lapse because, as I said, I haven't been to a movie in months. But it is summer coming up. There's big movies are coming out. I will probably...
Sure.
Yeah.
pick that back up for a few months.
I kind of feel similarly about the next one. How are you all feeling about Jane Austen Wrecked, the French film that is sort of Jane Austen in modern times in it's like Pride and Prejudice in a Pride and Prejudice writers club, essentially, in the UK by a French writer traveling there to find herself and then doing Pride and Prejudice?
Well, I was going to say the concept is just not for me at all, but the full title, Jane Austen Wrecked My Life, the joke I was going to make is I'm glad to hear they made a biopic of Brennan Klein.
Confession time. I have never read a Jane Austen book.
Oh, well, they're excellent, you might have heard.
I have indeed heard this. I have never read, and I don't think I have seen any movie based on her work.
Wow.
Either, which is, I know, odd, because there's about 1 billion adaptations of Pride and Prejudice alone. Oh, wait. Clueless, I guess. Clueless is based on a book of hers, right?
It is. Yeah. It's based on Emma.
So I have seen Clueless, so I haven't completely not seen anything based on her work, and I love Clueless, but...
She is a great author. I think all of her books are worth reading, and at least 2 of her movies are worth seeing. It's sort of where I'm at. More than 2. There's at least like 4 or 5, but...
Is Clueless one of them?
Yeah, Clueless is very good. I would say Clueless, the Ang Lee Sense and Sensibility, the BBC Pride and Prejudice with Colin Firth, and Love and Friendship, I think are all very much worth seeing.
Emma from a few years back was
Emma, that's
was
right. The Emma that opened like 6 minutes before the pandemic was very good.
Yeah, I almost watched the BBC Pride and Prejudice, and this is ridiculous, but because it's in an episode of Veronica Mars where they watch it and talk about it a lot in that one episode, I was like, I should watch this.
Hey, what?
It's like, oh, it's like 8 hours long. No, I shouldn't.
I remember the episode of Veronica Mars you're talking about, though. So totally valid reason to want to see the thing.
This is now a Veronica Mars podcast, so
I would be fine with that. Although it is still a movie podcast, so we should push on to May 23rd, which is, if nothing else, I think going to have clearly the financially biggest film of the month. Despite my great regret, I was so excited that Snow White tanked because I was like, finally, they've put a stake in that vampire's heart. But then along comes Lilo and Stitch, live action remake. It's going to make $10 trillion. Here's how... fuck this movie. But here's how much Lilo and Stitch is going to be a hit. My partner, who has seen 0 of these movies. Like, he just, on principle, he doesn't care. He doesn't want to see them. He was like, I might want to see that. Stitch looks cute. I was like, but just watch the fucking cartoon.
I will say that the CGI Stitch looks better than most of these CGI Disney abominations.
I'll fully agree with that, because it's great character design, so you can't ruin the character design.
It is Chris Anderson back doing the voice, which makes me hope that maybe he had some level of quality control influence, although I doubt it. And also his partner is not back. He's credited as screenwriter only because of the original.
Right.
Dean, what's his name?
Dean DeBlois.
DeBlois, thank you.
I don't know how to pronounce his last name now that I think about it.
Yeah, but anyway, yes, him. He is not involved as far as I can tell. I have not watched one of these since The Jungle Book.
Good place to stop.
Yeah, it's like one of the 2 that are good.
But I think you're right. I think it's going to make a lot of money. The newer movies they've done, the 90s movies, and are the ones that have made money on these live-action remakes, as opposed to the recent flop of Snow White, the shunting Pinocchio straight to Disney Plus.
And Stitch is like their one hugely marketable character between the 90s and Frozen, so he's going to make so much money.
I think Lilo and Stitch is the best animated Disney canon film post probably Hunchback.
I can't quite follow you there, because I do actually have it below Emperor's New Groove.
But that is actually what I would have at number 2. So those are the only 2 from that particular time period I think are actually worth a damn.
Well, that's just true. So,
to Tim, to your anecdote with your partner, this was the one of these trailers that actually, even though I am like deeply in my heart set against these things existing, this one managed begrudgingly to at least evoke my love for the original out of it. Like the trailer reminded me of how much I love Lilo and Stitch, which is maybe indicative also of why it's going to do such gangbusters.
For sure. That's why these do well when they do well.
I did have a beef with this trailer and several of the others, and I don't know if either of you noticed that the splicing of the audio dialogue in these things was some of the most outrageous I've ever heard, where every word in a given sentence was from a different scene and put together. Where it made me wonder if they're using AI tools to do this automatically now, from just like make me like you have Stitch or Lilo going at the one point, no dogs on the table, like, and it's like clearly every word in that sentence is from like multiple takes and sequences and things to try and fit it into there. And
I don't know if you accusing it of being AI is more or less charitable than me just thinking, oh wow, what a shitty child actress.
Oh no, it's
she does look terrible. I think like she has. Can't insult child actors. It's a sin.
Yeah. The one positive I will say is that at least there's not original songs in the Lilo and Stitch that will be butchered with new arrangements.
Just more Elvis songs.
Presumably they'll just play Elvis.
Yeah.
So the music won't suck. Like my phone at one point, because I listen to a lot of musical theater, I listen to Disney songs. It shuffled up one of the songs from the Beauty and the Beast live action remake, and it starts for a second. It's like, oh, it's Belle. I love this. Oh my god, what the fuck is this?
The auto tuning in Beauty and the Beast is awful, and like, not to turn this into a Beauty and the Beast podcast, but like, Be Our Guest is like 3 times as long as it is in the original film. It's like, what is
it's somehow longer than the stage musical?
So at least they won't be able to do that to Lilo and Stitch,
sure.
Which is all of my way of saying this might actually be the most interesting one of these live-action remakes since The Jungle Book to me, and I still think I'd have to be at gunpoint before I went and saw it.
I don't disagree. I had hopes for Dumbo before Dumbo happened, and then I saw Dumbo and I was like, fool me for having hopes, because, you know, Tim Burton at some point in his life made decent movies. It seems like a very long time ago.
Some really good ones even.
A long time ago.
Well, going to clearly not be able to withstand to the financial onslaught of Lilo and Stitch, but I'm still excited to see it. Mission Impossible: The Final Reckoning, because it's got Tom Cruise trying to kill himself in front of a camera, and that to me is cinema.
And it ends with the line from Tom Cruise, "I need you to trust me one last time." And I'm just thinking, oh, you know I will, Tom. I will be in seats. I trust you to land this plane.
I have liked all but 2 of the Mission Impossible movies, and those 2 were a very long time ago. And I just, again, if it's Tom Cruise is hanging on shit, I'll see it.
Mm-hmm. Was one of those 2 that you didn't like directed by one of the great Asian filmmakers of all time?
Sadly, yes.
Yes.
And I remain confused why it was so bad.
Oh, I hate Mission Impossible 2. I like some of 3 just because Philip Seymour Hoffman is really, really good.
Basically, yeah, he's giving an amazing performance in a movie directed by a TV guy who hadn't even learned the rudimentary filmmaking skills he would later demonstrate.
But everything since 4 has been spectacular.
Absolutely.
In the most literal meaning of that word.
Mm-hmm.
Climbing buildings, jumping off planes.
I remain amused that they've dropped the Dead Reckoning Part 2 thing that was planned, given the end of Dead Reckoning and the naming convention. But does it bother anybody else that it's Mission Impossible Dead Reckoning and then Mission Impossible The Final Reckoning? Like, why do we need the in there? Why is it not just Final Reckoning?
I feel like they should have tried to get away from Reckoning if they wanted to disguise the fact that it was a sequel to a film that underperformed. But,
yeah, it's,
you know, this is a movie that already has both colons and end dashes in almost every one of its titles. Like that, there's just no hope for their titles at this point.
Because I have the digital, copy that came with buying the disc of Dead Reckoning. At one point, not the movie. At least, I don't know, I haven't actually played the movie recently. But at one point, I'm scrolling through my Fandango at home, and it's like, it doesn't say part 1 anymore. So I haven't actually looked to see if they altered it in
the credits. Yeah,
Yeah, I should check that.
Yeah, I will continue to make a big stinking point of calling it Dead Reckoning Part 1 every time I refer to it.
What do you call the Tom Cruise Groundhog Day movie these days?
I call that movie Edge of Tomorrow because that is its name.
Live, die, repeat. Which that movie deserved better.
It did. They talk all the time about how there's going to be a sequel, and it's like, is there?
But there is the
At this point,
anime,
it's been 11 years.
Yeah, there is the anime adaptation of the novel coming.
I heard about that. I did hear about that.
Should be fun. Which, by the way, All You Need Is Kill is still a better title than either one of the two they slapped on Edge of Tomorrow.
Absolutely.
I don't understand. They've given it two inferior titles to the one movie.
Third time's a charm. Are we skipping over the first of the May 23rd wide releases?
I mean, it exists. It's a wide release. Angel Studios, which has weirdly become a force in the world. It's going to make money.
Angel Studios does that thing where they encourage people to buy and donate tickets.
It's those people. Okay.
Yeah, it's those people. Yeah, they do kind of religious movies.
Yeah.
Well, the current one in theaters, the King of Kings.
Yeah.
Is obviously very explicitly a religious animated.
Right.
It doesn't look like it's as fun as The Star.
No, like I kind of am curious because it's somehow it's a Charles Dickens adaptation.
Yeah.
But like it looks so unbelievably dry.
Yeah, and like this, even without the religious aspect, this isn't my kind of movie. Something about a rodeo.
The Last Rodeo, yeah. Which
he has to get.
I did not know it was them or religious in connotation at all, but that would explain like the slight wave of repulsion that it was giving me throughout the course of it, even before the trailer ended with an ad for a Ford and Bitcoin giveaway, which, yeah.
Great.
But he's going to discover faith and family.
Yeah, the last rodeo man to save his grandson will discover faith, confront his past, and ride a bull.
Sure will.
But for me, even more so than this being a sort of weird quasi-religious, probably religious counter-programming. And the last time Angel Studios had counter-programming to Mission Impossible, it was that stupid fucking child trafficking movie that, like, won money. And I'm still mad.
I loved all the pictures of people going to sold-out screenings, and they were the only people there, though.
Right. But, like, even better than that, this is directed by John Avnet, who, I don't know if either of you have seen 88 Minutes. But it is one of
Pacino and De Niro.
It's the real time. No, that's Righteous Kill, which is also directed by John Avnet. 88 Minutes is the Pacino film in real time, where he has to like.
I did not see it, but I do remember it coming out.
So goddamn bad.
I remember hearing that when it came out, possibly from you.
I certainly had thoughts about that movie on my blog still about.
I remember the trailer for this one and thinking, God, let Al Pacino rest. Just send him a check at home, please.
All right. Well, since none of us are, I think, at all likely to see The Last Rodeo, shall we push on to the last weekend of May 2025? There are 5 weekends for those of you counting at home. May 30th, 2 wide releases, the first of which alphabetically is a horror picture called Bring Her Back from the directors Danny and Michael Philippou, brothers if I'm not mistaken, who brought the world Talk to Me a few years back, which I just recently saw. I saw for the first time this past Halloween, and I rather liked it.
Wow, I'm surprised you just now caught that one.
Yes, I'm kind of. It's worth it. It's not great, but it's got some moves, and I'm curious to see what they've got next. So
this looks pleasantly creepy.
Yeah.
It's one of the trailers that it doesn't quite ever tell you what's going on.
And it's a movie about how Sally Hawkins is possibly more threatening than she appears, and I'm excited to see Sally Hawkins get a proper role.
Sure.
I like her.
Yeah, she's not really gotten her due, given, Oscar-winning parts.
Given that they ousted her from Paddington 3 for some reason. Maybe because she was making this, who can say?
Yeah, I will be in theaters for this one, I think. It was one of the only... Yeah. I think this is going to be in my top 5 most interested.
I mean, probably mine too, just because I think I kind of topped out at the 3 that I am very interested for. We haven't gotten to the 3rd yet, but no, I'm looking forward to this. And then Then we have a some sort of weird legacy product.
Yes. The franchise
Karate Kid Legends.
Still going.
Didn't they just finish the TV show spinoff? Like,
I think it ended in like February because my parents were watching it for some reason. I don't think they've seen any of the Karate Kid movies.
I definitely saw the original as a kid. Maybe the second and third one. It's long enough ago that it's a vague mass in the back of my head. I have not seen any of them as an adult. I never saw the Hilary Swank one. I have not watched Cobra Kai.
Hilary Swank one.
I have seen the first one, and I did see the Jackie Chan one that's not about karate.
I forgot about that one even existed.
It's not about karate?
No, it's about some Chinese martial art. But you need to remember that one exists because the new one brings them all together. Because Jackie Chan's in it.
That's right. I forgot Jackie Chan I saw that Jackie Chan was in this, but I forgot that other movie existed.
Oh yeah, no, it's the one that
the Jaden Smith vehicle,
the Highlander 4 of the Karate Kids.
This is just timing, and I really am trying to turn this into a Veronica Mars podcast. But there was a web series called "Play It Again, Dick" that came out on the CW Seed after the Veronica Mars movie came out, and it was a fictional documentary about Ryan Hansen trying to launch his own spinoff as a detective, as Dick Casablancas. And there's a scene at the beginning of it where Kristen Bell is telling him what a bad idea this is. And it's saying it would be like giving Zilly Zapka a lead role with his Karate Kid character. And this was 2014, and 3 years later, they started producing Cobra Kai with Billy Zabka as lead character. I'm like, this movie shaded that show 3 years in advance.
I watched a grand total of like 10 minutes of Cobra Kai while my parents had it on. I don't know. It didn't look interesting to me. But people liked it. I don't know. This movie exists because people liked Cobra Kai.
Yeah,
maybe I'll do a Karate Kid binge. Probably not.
It feels like commit to the Final Destination binge. I think it'll pay off better for you.
Yeah, it's the kind of thing I would do if I was interested in this movie.
Sure.
I'm not interested in this movie.
So that leaves only one last May release, and it is...
No one's going to care about this one.
It is definitely the one that I am personally the most excited for. So excited that I just noticed I misspelled its title on our cheat sheet. Nevertheless, it is The Phoenician Scheme, the new film by Wes Anderson. I'm a Wes Anderson dead-ender, and this trailer opens with a lateral panning shot. I'm here. It has lots of center-punched compositions. It's in full frame. These are all things that I need it to be.
I sold before seeing the trailer, doubly sold after seeing the trailer. The flight I just got back from this week was from Paris, and from I did see with our own Gavin McDowell the Wes Anderson exhibit at the Cinematheque there, at the along with the Méliès exhibit and everything. I'm very much increasingly with every film I am more on the Wes Anderson train. I don't know how it's possible that he keeps doing this to me, but I just love his work more and more all the time. The fussiness, the extreme meta layers of like 4 of the last 5 of his films, which ought to be really annoying, and they do annoy some people, but I just find them completely delightful.
Yeah, I have a friend for whom Asteroid City was like the one that finally broke him. And I was like, if you made it through the French Dispatch, how can Asteroid City be the one that finally breaks you?
Is it the 3 layers? The right.
I think it's that he is like a theater guy and he is put out by the degree to which it adopts a theater-ness, but it's not actually like really theater. I don't know. I've been on board. I remain only one Wes Anderson film didn't push all my buttons. That was The Life Aquatic, and that was 21 years ago. I'm riding this train until it derails with me on it.
One of these days, I need to watch a second Wes Anderson movie.
Yeah.
What is the one you have seen?
You just said it.
Oh, well, see.
Life Aquatic is the only Wes Anderson movie I have ever seen.
The only...
At least watch Tenenbaums. At least watch the Royal Tenenbaums.
It's one of those things I've always been... Oh, one of these days I'm going to watch something else by him.
Or Grand Budapest
Yeah,
Hotel. Everybody loves that one, I feel like.
Yeah,
it just never
those are
seems to
probably
come
the
up
two.
to the day that is that one day.
No, that's fair. And I feel like it's one of those things where at this point, if you're not like on board, the people like me must just seem really an impediment to getting on board. Because like I think people who love him in a really like precious way, which is kind of how you have
I know
to.
Jason Schwartzman is in at least one.
Many of them.
And I do like Jason Schwartzman a lot, particularly when he's playing a dick.
You know, if you only have 20 minutes, you could watch one of those quite good Netflix shorts he did the other year as well.
Yeah.
Largely.
Were those the Roald Dahl boy?
The wonderful story of Henry Sugar and three others. Although it wasn't initially called that, but I think they then stitched them together into a single thing.
Yeah, one of these days.
Yeah. No, it's... Again, I get that like the way that people love Wes Anderson is probably very annoying. And I apologize if I have been complicit in making it feel like something you don't want to do.
It's like, I remember when Rushmore came out and it got huge response, and I saw the trailer and went, that doesn't look very good. And that's about as far as I ever got with it.
That's fair. No, I've been a fan since, like I said, I think Rushmore was my first Criterion DVD, so long way back. But so I'm going to be there as soon as Phoenician Scheme happens in my life, which will probably not be in May because it's probably only going to be in New York and LA. But when it hits, the Midwest, I will be there to see it for sure.
I probably won't be.
You guys have any other thoughts on the films before we wrap things up?
No, it looks like the most promising month of the year so far, which I guess is expected from May.
Especially after what we've had for the first quarter. First third of the year, rather.
Yeah. Mission Impossible has a very low bar to be the best action-driven popcorn movie of the year thus far.
I have failed, though. I have not brought up Ingmar Bergman even once on this podcast.
That's okay. If you want to go back over the titles and see if you can wedge something in there.
I got nothing.
Well, you did at least name the master on the episode, so we're going to count that as a check. So thank you both, Caleb and Brian, for showing up, for helping me work through these movies. Do either of you have any projects you want to talk up at this moment in time, or just...
Let Us Build a Tower, a mythic Bronze Age adventure in Babel, is actually now available for people who didn't back the Kickstarter. So if anybody is who likes tabletop role-playing games or knows somebody who does and is interested in like a mythic Mesopotamian setting with horrifying biblical influences, that's over on Indie Press Revolution now, or on itch.io. Right.
You can follow me on Letterboxd. That's about all I got here.
Thank you both very much for showing up. Thank you all for listening. We appreciate, as always, your support. If you want to support the show on Patreon, the link is in the show notes. Otherwise, next week, special episode. April has 5 Tuesdays, so there's going to be a little surprise. I'm going to do sort of a dealer's choice for next week, so be sure to check that out when the time comes. Just keep listening. We appreciate it, and we will catch you next time. Thanks, everybody.